Hi guys, so if you've seen my 5 types of contrast video, it's good because we're gonna talk more about this today. If you didn't, I'm gonna link it down below. See, if we lived in the world where nothing can be done to a body, it has this certain coloration, certain hair color, let's say, you can't change it, so we can assign this or that coloration to the person, this or that contrast to the person. But now we live in high technology world where everything can be artificially changed, almost everything. So let's see the ways how we can add or remove the contrast from the look. My personal opinion about this, removing the contrast or adding the contrast, or the more or the less contrast you have, has nothing to do with beautiful or not beautiful. It's just certain coloration which is perfect in its own uniqueness. That's my taste, that's my viewpoint on that. To look at this information that I'm gonna tell you today, try not to stick to all that previous information that you have about colors, about contrasts, 12 seasons, 4 seasons, all those color analysis. We're kind of doing it slightly from scratch. Let's just pretend we just arrived to this planet just to see what kind of bodies people have here and what can be added to those bodies or removed from those bodies so they would look more contrasted or less contrasted. So number 1 is of course makeup. Darker brows, eyeliner, mascara, darker eyeshadows, lining the lips, applying some lip color, contouring, blush, cheekbones accentuation. All that is makeup. What it does, it adds the contrast to the face. Sometimes people remove the contrast from their face with makeup, which is much rarer. Remember in the 90s, I would not say that they removed the contrast from the faces, but in the 90s there was such a trend. They were applying lighter eyeshadow on the eyes. Sometimes it was kind of that matte, dusty, lighter, like powder color eyeshadows. It was slightly bluish or light gray eyeshadow sometimes. If we make them black and white, that will kind of actually remove some contrast from their eye area rather than add it in there. But of course they had mascara, so it kind of balanced the look a little bit. But if we, let's say, compare that look when you have just foundation, in this case you removed your contrast a little bit because all those natural shadows on your face now are reflecting light more, so it has much less contrast than it had before. Even adding darker brows on an empty face can add a little bit more contrast to the face. Sometimes the contrast with makeup can be removed with a purpose. Let's say on this picture she has such bright eyes, so she removed any contrast from her lips, making them very nude, kind of same as her skin color. If she didn't do that, she would be more contrasted, right? So that was done on purpose. Another situation when a woman removes contrast to make her look slightly from a different century, when everything powdered, everything very pale was very fashionable. Like these ladies, for example, those empty eyes have nothing on it, but they do have foundation, and foundation is reducing their natural shadows around their eyes, for example, so their eyes look even less contrasted than if they looked, for example, without any makeup, right? Again, that was done for purpose. If we talk about -2, -1 contrast, these women are pale overall, so of course any type of makeup almost would give them some color. It already creates some contrast for them, whether it's lips or brows or eyes or all together or just part of it. So in the 90s that was also very popular, those shimmery light bluish eyeshadow all around the eyes and just some mascara in the center. Yeah, maybe the color itself would pop a little bit, but if we make it black and white, the depth of colors are so equal, they reflect light evenly from all those surfaces. So it does create less contrast effect. If we talk about deeper coloration, of course those light accents on them, or light and shimmery, something that would reflect light, that would be lighter than their skin, is going to create some contrast for them. And something that is close to their skin color is going to remove some contrast, but they still can have some black eyeliner that's gonna pop and make their whites even whiter, so it's gonna add some contrast for their skin. Let's say bright red lips, that's also gonna add some contrast because it's gonna be so different from their skin, from their eyes color, so it's gonna really pop. Number 2, hair. Hair color can really change the contrast. It can whether remove the contrast or add the contrast again. So in this case, the closer the darkness of your hair color to the darkness of your skin color, the less contrast you will have, and the more different it's gonna be between your skin and the hair, the more contrast you're adding to yourself. If we talk about -1, -2 contrast women, they're normally natural blondes, right? So they can color their hair slightly darker than their natural. So they're gonna have more contrast. They can tone their hair, for example. Something like neutral light brown color or ashy brown color is gonna add some more contrast, more coloration for them. That's gonna be a bigger contrast between their hair and their skin, and of course the eyes as well. Another way they can brighten their hair, they can make them, let's say, light strawberry blonde, something pinkish, for example. That has more pigment, that has more color, it's brighter just in general. It might not be darker necessarily, but it's gonna have that pop of color. The color itself that is different from their eyes and from their skin is gonna pop more, so therefore it's gonna create another type of contrast, not in the depth of colors, how dark or how light that is. So if we make her black and white, let's say in this case, we're not gonna see that much of a difference. She still is gonna have same lightness, darkness situation. Now, if we talk about all those crazy hair colors, of course, for everyone it's gonna add some contrast, like colored contrast for every skin tone, even though the darkness or lightness can be pretty close to her whole coloration. Now, if we talk about women with zero contrast, in this case, they can whether make their hair very close to their skin color. This way they will have less contrast, they will look softer. It will kind of blend all together with their eyes, with their skin. Every time they go slightly lighter or slightly darker, this is how they add some contrast to their look. If they go super platinum blonde, of course it's going to create a lot of contrast in case they don't have very light skin. Or they can go darker. You know, I've seen some women who naturally have ashy blonde hair color and they're in a zero contrast, but they looked pretty cool with slightly darker hair color. Like they added some brown tones to it, like brown ashy, made their hair color deeper, and then that just gave them some contrast, some additional contrast. Hair can be very contrasted for the eyes. Let's say brown eyes and platinum blonde hair, that's going to create a lot of contrast. If we talk about +1 or +2 contrast levels, these women already have more colors in their body. If they go for hair color that is close to their skin color, when we're making them black and white, their skin color kind of blends to the hair. We don't see the outline of their face very much, right? But every time, again, they go whether darker or lighter or much lighter, it's going to create such a contrast for them. You know, these women with very, very deep skin color, when they try on some bleached white wigs, what a contrast that creates for them. Many women have gray hair. Now, gray hair can remove some contrast from their look. Women with zero contrast, -1 or -2, when they have gray hair, they can remove some contrast from them, especially if their skin is very light and their gray hair is like very white. Same white hair for women with bigger contrast, like +1, +2, with deeper skin tones, that can create much more contrast for them. Sometimes they can be different gray hair, like salt and pepper, beautiful ashy gray color. Again, that can whether remove or add contrast. It depends on the skin tone. If the skin tone is very, very light, if they don't have much contrast, so that grayishness, it can be in contrast with their skin tone. Number 3 is skin color. Now, we can't change our skin color too much. Sometimes they even sell some creams that bleach the skin, make the skin slightly lighter, just to handle some pigmentation. For example, some women have those orange spots on their skin, so they want to get rid of them. Some people want their skin darker. They have fake tan or they suntan to change their skin. Now, my personal contrast level is not very high. I'm somewhere in the middle. But look at that. When I was in Florida several years ago, this is what kind of tan I had. Also at the same time, I had super bleached hair. It was very white. So that created such a contrast for me, as you can see on those pictures. That created much more contrast for me than I usually have naturally. So Michael Jackson, he had a disease, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this disease is called vitiligo. On their normal skin tone, they have lighter spots. And it's actually very beautiful and it looks very exotic, very interesting. Michael Jackson said that he had that disease, so he used light foundations to cover his skin. If you know more information about this, let me know, because that's what I heard. I watched some of his interviews. He created more contrast for himself, having those black hair, black eyes, and that light skin with that additional, I don't know, foundation or that disease. So freckles dark spots, pigment spots. They make the skin darker. Now, fake tan, it doesn't mean that it will add more contrast. Again, it depends on your natural contrast level. For example, for some women, self-tanner can give them less contrast. It kind of can equalize the darkness of the skin with the darkness of the hair. And for some women, self-tanner can create that contrast for them, especially if they're bleached blondes. Number 4 is brows. I already talked about brows in number 1, makeup, but that was makeup. This is when we take care of our brows with some brow products. But now I'm talking about dyeing the brows, whether darker or lighter. Some women like to bleach their brows to create that softer effect. Even women with +1 and +2 contrast, they do bleach their brows along with their hair just to create that very interesting look. So they are removing that contrast from their face. All that's left there is those 2 round black eyes looking at us. Of course, women with 0 or -1 contrast or -2, they sometimes can dye their brows, or they do microblading or like tattoo their brows a darker color, so that gives them that more permanent, more contrasted look. Some women like to do even more contrasted. They make their brows black and they make their hair bleached blonde. The bigger the difference, the more contrast that is. Number 5 is eyes. Now, there are loads of women nowadays who like to wear contact lenses, colored contact lenses. They can be different. For some people, that can add some contrast. For some people, that can remove some contrast. They have so many colors, so many options nowadays for those colored contact lenses. For example, this one, that has that iris, that has that darker frame, so that will always look more contrasted with the white. And some lenses don't have that darker frame around their iris, so they don't look as contrasted, and they actually, that blends to the whites of the eyes, and eyes kind of get slightly like a glass, slightly transparent, which also can create a very, very interesting look. Number 6, teeth. Not so long ago, they started selling those teeth bleaching products almost in every shop. A couple of decades ago, that wasn't the case, so some people had whiter teeth naturally. The cameras for the films, let's say, were also not as advanced, so we didn't see those real colors, so we didn't see the tone of their teeth. Or those Hollywood stars, when they were wearing that red lipsticks, we still couldn't see that their teeth was actually not very white. Nowadays, that's easy. There's so many people who bleach them to such a degree that it is so white. Some people make it that it's even brighter than their whites of their eyes. That one feature creates much more contrast for everyone. And number 7, clothes, accessories, and nail polish. We can put it in there too. So everything that you basically put on yourself, color-wise, that can whether add contrast to you or remove some contrast. So everything that you're wearing that is close to your skin color is gonna be less contrasted, of course. Everything that is further from the skin color is gonna be more contrasted. That's why women with -2, -1 contrast, when they're wearing something very light, white, light blues, pale colors, they become much less contrasted than, let's say, they would add something black to them. Even if they wear something darker or brighter, that by itself can create a lot of contrast for them. People with 0 contrast, everything that is too bright, it can create contrast for them. Or something very dark or very white bright. Everything that is in the middle is gonna kind of create that less contrasted look for them. Now, if we talk about +1, +2 contrast, of course, for these women, again, if they wear something that is close to their skin color, skin tone, that's gonna create less contrast for them rather than they would add something darker. If we talk about Monica Bellucci, she's +2 contrast. Pale skin and very dark eyes and dark hair on this picture. When she's wearing something dark, it creates a lot of contrast, so it speaks with her eyes, with her hair, but the rest is very pale. So that by itself creates a lot of contrast. If we see a woman with a very dark coloration, she is wearing something light, something bright, so that by itself creates a lot of contrast for her. Now, if we talk about accessories, if we talk about jewelry, for women with -1, -2 contrast level, some silver or golden jewelry is not gonna create such a contrast for them. It's gonna blend into their whole look. It's gonna have that pop of color because of the light reflection. But in general, it's gonna blend to their look. Let's say women with 0 contrast, they're gonna look more contrasted with those golden pieces and with silver pieces because they're gonna look lighter on their overall look. Especially women with 0 contrast have some dustiness in them, like some soft and muted colors in them. For them, pure golden or pure silver pieces is gonna reflect light even more. It's gonna be much more contrasted contrasted for them, as opposed to, let's say, they would wear something bronze or dark silver or kind of darkened metal pieces, right? It's gonna be much less contrasted for them. If we talk about women with very deep skin colors, gold, silver, everything like that is gonna pop so much. It's gonna create a lot of contrast for them. Glasses, amazing accessory that can immediately add or remove contrast from you. If, let's say, a woman with -1, -2 contrast, she's wearing very contrasted glasses that immediately kind of like pops so much. It creates so much contrast on her. The further that is from your skin color, hair color, the more contrasted that will look. Nowadays, the world changed a lot. If we take 80s, for example, women were still trying to add a lot of stuff on themselves. They were playing with colors, with hair colors, with makeup, with accessories a lot. So they were kind of adding and removing the contrast from themselves, but it wasn't to such a degree as we have now. Nowadays, if you can see that there are women who spend a lot of time, who spend a lot of effort to create a certain contrast level for themselves, to change basically everything from their skin tone, eye color, of course those lash extensions, they also add a lot of contrast in there. They microblade their brows, all those contouring techniques. Plastic surgery actually is not directly connected to the contrast, but it influences on the way a person looks in terms of contrast as well. And if you're interested, let me know. One of my next videos I will talk about this. It's not much information, it's just some additional things that is good if we are aware about. My viewpoint on all that, it depends on your desires, your tastes, the amount of effort you are ready to make in order to have a certain look. What I'm happy about is that I see more and more different types of beauty are being appreciated. Those very strict borders are not there anymore. We're shaking that situation. So basically those are those 7 basic things that can add contrast to the person or remove it. And I'm not talking about pictures now, filming. I'm not talking about light situation. I'm not talking about shapes. All we talked today about is you being in real life. If you look in the mirror right now, there is a certain contrast that you have on yourself. That's how we manipulate our contrast all the time, based on our taste, based on our preferences, based on what we see, what we are inspired by. If you're happy with your look, I think that's what matters. And as for me, sometimes I feel like I want to be less contrasted for some reason. Sometimes I want some more contrast on myself. And I'm also thinking about the amount of effort I'm ready to spend for that. I like beauty, but I'm not one of those polished people, if I can say so. So I want to spend a bit less time for myself and feel happy. Alright, stay tuned. We're gonna talk much more about this. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2020. I wish all of you guys succeed in 2020. Believe in yourself. I wish you all amazing year. Thank you so much for watching. I now have this join button, so if you click on the button, you'll get some exclusive videos, you'll get early access to some of my videos, and I will be very happy if you join. If you love some retro music, some classic rock, you're welcome to subscribe on my music channel as well. You can also support me on Patreon. That would be a huge help for me. I upload some exclusive videos there sometimes, and I answer your questions there, so please welcome. You can subscribe on my Instagram for just random stuff from my music and from my makeup life. You can also subscribe on my Pinterest, where I have 13 boards as an inspiration for each body type. It might help you to get a better idea about the body types in general. Thank you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.